Testing.
We're live. We're live right now. So
We are live, so we are testing and it is way too loud. Too loud, yeah. All right, is there too much of an echo for folks? Okay, let's do one. All right, how about this? How does this sound? Is that good? Yeah, thumbs up, thumbs up. Thumbs down? Damn it. Okay, how about this? Can we move this that way? Woo! Some vibrations. I'm a commissioner. I sit on the Commission on the Status of Women of San Francisco. And also one of the co-organizers for today's educational event. So thank you so much for being here. Appreciate every single one of you. Thank you also for the folks that are online. Sorry about all the technical difficulties. Hopefully you can hear us well. Please make sure to put a thumbs up or put something in the chat just so we know you're good. All right, I would like to do a big thank you to all of the co-hosts. We are starting with Real Reform SF. If I can have you guys stand up, wave your hands. Yeah, we also have Asia. I think she should be coming in now, but she will be speaking at the end. Next up is San Francisco League of Women Voters. We have a lot of the folks here. Stand up, please, stand up. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Next up, San Francisco Women's Political Committee. Stand up. Thank you so much. The Women's Building. Thank you. Thank you, Revere and Tanya. Thank you. And then lastly, Roots of Change. Thank you so much, Sam. Really, truly appreciate your partnership. This couldn't have happened without all these organizations basically putting this all together, so thank you all. Okay, so I have a few housekeeping rules. The tables outside that you saw when you were coming in, there's information from the co-hosts, so please make sure you grab the information. If you want to get involved with any of these organizations, you can speak to folks outside, and they can let you know how you can get involved. For SFWPC, if you're a member, you have to sign in. Please make sure you do that, because I have to sign in as well, so that I get counted. Please count me, Anna. We also have, if anybody needs Spanish translation of the slides, we do have them outside. So we do have Spanish translations of the slides. Thank you to the Women's Building for doing that for us. For the Wi-Fi, there is a code on the door of the auditorium. There's a QR code. Just click on that code and you should be connected to Wi-Fi. Questions will be held at the end of the presentation. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions that come up. Jot them down on a notepad, put it on your phone, text yourself. That's how I remember how to do stuff. Whatever it is, just hold them. We will be holding Q&A at the end. What's left? Yes, we will have, well, right there is going to be, for once we have Q&A, for the folks that are in person, you are going to line up to the left. There's the stand right there. We're probably going to move it a little bit. But you will line up once we have the Q&A portion. For the folks online, you will just put it in the chat, and we're either going to have Sam or Chelsea basically pull out the questions to our presenters. Please silence your phone, just like you do in a movie theater. Thank you. Bathrooms are to the left. The code is on the door. It is 18780#, but it is also on the door. And that's it. That's it from my side. So now we're getting started. So we have our first presenters, Allison and Maxine.
Thank you very much. Now I'm going to make sure that I'm nowhere near where these speakers are going to reverberate on. So I will stand back here. Good evening. Thank you all for coming out. My name is Maxine Anderson, and I'm with the League of Women Voters of San Francisco. We've got a lot of information to cover for you this evening, so I'm going to get started right in with the first slide. Okay, why are we here? Why are we all here? Well, first of all, we're here because we want a background on what commissions and the city charter do, and we want to gather a greater understanding of San Francisco's commission system and the relevance of the city charter to many commissions. Proposition E overview. If you didn't know, we're going to tell you how Prop E might reshape local political participation and civic engagement. Task force recommendations. What this task force that was created by Proposition E, we're going to look over and review some of the how they came about doing their processes and their key proposals for changes in our city commissions. And the most important part is, why does this matter to you? Because I believe we all need an understanding of the implications of the proposed changes and as it equates to local democracy, accountability, and community voice, our community voices. Again, we're going to have a Q&A at the end of the entire presentation. Next slide. So what are the origins of commissions, of San Francisco commissions? San Francisco's first charter was created in 1898, and it established 21 commissions, setting a foundation for civic oversight that continues to today. In the 1930s, long time ago, commissions were seen as a way to prevent government corruption and protect the public interest. These bodies were designed as a check and balance on San Francisco's strong mayor system, providing oversight, accountability, and transparency in local government, and to serve as a bulwark against corruption. They were designed to provide independent oversight of core city departments, including public utilities, urban planning, and the police. The goal of this creation was to distribute the power, shield essential city functions from political influence, place decision-making authority in the hands of civically engaged residents, which would be us, and reduce the opportunities for patronage, favoritism, and corruption. Additional commissions were created in the 1960s and 70s when it appears, I'm a transplant to San Francisco, when everybody got civically involved and decided we needed commissions and all these other things. And they were created to incorporate community voices into government decision-making. Thank you. Okay, San Francisco's charter is like the city's constitution. It's a legal document that defines the structure, powers, and authorities of city government, governing how the city operates and makes decisions. Commissions are public bodies composed of appointed members with defined powers and responsibilities, such as advising, overseeing operations, or hearing appeals from the public. The term commissions refers to a variety of public bodies, including task forces, and commissions are public bodies that take input from us, the community, and vote transparently on decisions. Members are often ordinary citizens with relevant expertise, experience, or community knowledge. For example, the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force, which is a great committee, and I do sit on it, includes lawyers, journalists, consumer advocates, and engaged residents focused on public access to information. Commissions may provide advice or make decisions in specific areas of city policies. Now, most commissioners are appointed by the mayor. Some are appointed by the board of supervisors or other authorities. Police commission, the mayor appoints 4 members to the police commission, the board of supervisors appoints 3. The commission on the status of women, the mayor appoints all of them. Sunshine Ordinance Commission, the board of supervisors appoints all. As I said, commissioners are typically appointed by the mayor, the board of supervisors, or jointly by both. Though appointed, commissions are intended to operate independently from mayoral, board, or departmental control, serving as forums for oversight, inquiry, and public feedback. Examples such as the police commission sets policy for the police department, oversees the Department of Police Accountability, and conducts disciplinary hearings. The Commission on the Status of Women, which recommends city policies addressing domestic violence, harassment, employment, and healthcare inequities, and homelessness. Right now, there are 1,500 San Francisco residents, 1,500, who serve on commissions. Most of us are volunteers. So we just come and show up. So thank you very much, and I'm going to turn this over to Allison.
Hi everyone, I'm Allison Washburn, a longtime member of the League of Women Voters of San Francisco and past president, and I served for about 10 years on the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. So now we're going to look at the types of commissions. According to the Controller's Office, commissions generally fall into 3 categories. Advisory commissions provide non-binding advice, as well as professional and community expertise to city leaders. Governance commissions oversee city operations and can make binding decisions, including approving contracts and budgets, and recommending the removal of department heads and setting policy. These commissions are usually appointed solely by the mayor, though debates about their appropriate levels of independence are ongoing, as is the case for a lot of things having to do with commissions in our city. as you'll learn. Regulatory commissions enforce rules and hear appeals on specific matters. A notable example is the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force, which, number one, ensures our access to government information, that is, to public records. And virtually all records in city government are public. And number two, protects our right to provide input, and yes, often our own expertise in meetings where our business, the people's business, is conducted. Commissions derive their authority from either the city charter or administrative code, which define their scope and responsibilities. And the slide lists these ways in the lower part of the slide. The city charter for commissions and functions codified in the charter, they are insulated from political influence in some respects because changes to these commissions require voter approval. The administrative code commissions created in this manner derive their authority from the codes that are created by ordinance, and they can be amended by the Board of Supervisors and the mayor. Finally, voters sometimes create commissions by ballot initiatives. So commissions can be created directly through the democratic process. So, next slide, please. According to the 2024 Civil Grand Jury Report entitled Commissions Impossible, among the benefits of commissions are those listed on this slide. Through checks, balances, and oversight, commissions provide essential oversight of city departments and officials, ensuring that no single entity holds unchecked power. Public engagement is ensured through structured opportunities for residents to participate in local government and influence policy decisions. The third bullet point, transparency and accountability, ensures access to public records and open meetings of policy and other bodies to ensure that government actions remain visible and officials remain accountable to us, San Franciscans. Number four, expertise and community connection. Commissioners who are part-time volunteers, as Maxine explained, bring specialized knowledge, experience, and deep community ties, bridging the gap between residents and City Hall. The final bulleted point, based upon but stronger in some respects than the California Public Records Act and the Brown Act, it is San Francisco's Sunshine Ordinance that mandates that all of the above, in fact, occur, ensure that we maintain a healthy, functioning democracy in our city and county. Thank you.
Good evening, folks, and thank you, Leave and the voters, for that wonderful primer on all of this stuff. I'm Ed Harrington. I was the controller in San Francisco for many, many years, and then I was the head of public utilities in San Francisco. I've served on the Public Utilities Commission and the Port Commission, so I've kind of been on the staff side and the commission side for these types of activities. I got involved in this because when I read Prop D last year, a group of us said, that's not okay, meet acts approach, and the whole idea was that it seemed to hate public engagement and blame public engagement for the problems of the city, which I did not agree with at all. So we put Prop E on the ballot, and I was the principal officer for the No on D and Yes on E campaign. And after that, I thought I should be on the Prop E Commission Streamlining Task Force so things wouldn't go wrong. And some of you may think that was a good idea or not. But we did want this to be something that was not just a hard, Prop D had a count of 65 commissions. The city would never be able to have more than 65 commissions. We wanted this to be a much more organically growing kind of discussion about why we had commissions, how many there should be, what was going on with all of that. Our job was to review the existing commissions. It was to recommend, and it says in there, to modify, eliminate, or combine, propose limits to expansion of commission authority, and then out of that would come a proposed ordinance and some charter proposals. I realize that a number of people in this room think that what this task force did was more than what Proppy had asked for. And you'll notice in some cases, I was the 4-to-1 vote against a number of things that happened. But I would ask you to be aware that the people that were on the task force were all bright, decent people. They had different points of view. And I realized that one person's flexibility is another person's loss of protection. And so I understand that there are two different views of the world, and advocates have a different view than sometimes people who work in City Hall. I was lucky to have been on both sides of that line in different parts of my career, and so I had a bit of sense of that. But these were not people trying to say that public engagement wasn't important. They just had a different view of how to make that happen. And so as you go through this, and as you encourage people to make changes, please keep that in mind. I would appreciate it. Next slide. So what did we do? We said, okay, there's 152 of these bodies. No one had a count before. And of those, we said we should keep 87. So first off, that was a win over Prop D. Prop D would have been 65. We did say eliminate 60 of them. In many cases, over 30 of those were simply inactive. Some had never met, some had not met for years. There was another group that were actually staff groups, staff meeting groups. Staffs don't need to be codified. They can meet when they want to meet. And so a big chunk of that was those two groups. But there were others that people do not like that we said we did not think that they played a useful role anymore. And that's why we recommended elimination of those. For those of you who are counting, I said 152 at the top, and we kept 87 and eliminated 60, at least 5. 4 we didn't even think about because they were not really in our purview. One was our own commission. There was no reason to deal with that. That goes out of business next year anyway. And then the other one was we merged 2 together, and that's where the other 5 comes from. The biggest, I think, sticking point for many people is that we took commissions out of the charter and moved them into the admin code. In some cases, those were advisory commissions. A number of commissions, and I say the word commissions, as you mentioned, there are commissions, task forces, advisory groups, all kinds of names. We just use the commission as the overall term. In some cases, these commissions were fine, they were great, but they were advisory, and we believe that advisory commissions should be flexible. And so if you had an advisory group, why shouldn't the board or mayor add to it or delete from it or change the responsibilities over time? That was different from the things that are in the charter, which are supposed to be much more set in stone. And so some of the ones that we took out of the charter were for that reason. In other cases, the task force thought that these groups were more advisory than decision-making and took them out of the charter. Differences of opinion clearly on that part. We also put together what we call templates, and we said if something looks like a decision-making commission or an advisory commission, this is what flows from that. And so we said we think that there should be term limits of 12 years for most commissioners, so that there'll be some turnover. We think that advisory groups should typically have a 3-year sunset date, so every 3 years somebody has to say, is this still proving valuable or not? And so some of those things came from the templates. Other things that came from the templates talk a bit about what you were talking about in terms of the purpose of a commission. We had a lot of conversation about that at the beginning. And clearly there is a school of thought that commissions are certainly part of the checks and balances of San Francisco, and every commission should be independent and be part of that. We did not feel that way. We thought that there was a good reason to have checks and balances. The mayor and the board, the Ethics Commission, the Sunshine Task Force, the controller, the city attorney, the Civil Service Commission, Elections Commission. There was a lot of checks and balances in San Francisco. But we did not think that every single commission should be set up to stop the mayor from trying to run the city. That if you're on the airport commission and you're appointed by the mayor, we thought you should be responsible to the mayor. In the charter, those commissions are in the executive branch of the charter. I remember having a long conversation with Mayor Breed when Breed was mayor and I was on the Public Utilities Commission. And one of her things was, I want you to do these things. And I was working with her, but she said, why won't your fellow commissioners do this? If the water system doesn't work, they're not gonna know who the 5 of you are. They're gonna blame me. And so why shouldn't I be able to tell you what I want to do? Because I'm the mayor, I was elected, none of you were. And I do feel for that. I also do not like when mayors have hidden behind, I can't do that, it's the commissioners and I can't do that. I elected you, not them, and you should take your job and you should do it. So difference of opinion again, but that's the reasoning behind why we talk about that. The checks and balances in public engagement. Have you done that one yet? You went a little bit further. I'm going backwards, sorry. So we did what we thought was right. And again, it was a 41 vote on a number of things. Some of the ones that we've heard the most about are on this slide. And there's different ways that you can approach this. So the Commission on the Status of Women, Human Rights Commission, Environment Commission, Youth Commission, were all commissions that were in the charter. They're all being proposed to move to the administrative code. It does read like what President Trump hates. It has all those kind of visions for why would San Francisco do this. I think that, again, there's people who believe that flexibility for these commissions was more important, and that could happen in the admin code. These are really straightforward to fix. Go to your board members and tell them you don't want them taken out of the charter. The next one, children's, seniors, and homeless commissions. These are more involved because in each case, there have been a number of citizens initiatives that have established these commissions and committees and advisory groups and everything else over time. In some cases, before there were departments that dealt with these subjects. What I have suggested to the Board of Supervisors is that in our process, it was a public process. We could not negotiate with people. Staff did not want to come and say we hate our commissions or we love our commissions. So we heard mostly from advocates and we heard from a lot of people. So what I've suggested to the board is that individual board members convene advocates and staff and others involved on these 3 topics and say, if you were going to start this today, would you create it this way? You know, if you have 6 or 7 different groups, maybe it makes sense to have 2 or 5, maybe 1 in the charter and 4 in the code. But does it really make sense to keep everything the way it was when we started to do these things, in some cases 10, 20, 30 years ago? So this is an opportunity in those 3 groupings, at least from my point of view, to say, what's the best way to do it now that we have departments and now that we're working on these types of programs? Mayor's authority to hire and fire commissioners and hire and fire department heads. I'm sure we'll hear a lot about that. Again, the mayor's authority to hire and fire department heads, actually the mayor does that now. The mayor tells commissioners who they want, who the mayor wants to be the department head, and it just tends to happen. So I'm not sure that's a huge difference. You will notice the mayor just put several items out for initiative campaigns. In his, he's suggesting that the commission have a role in hiring, but not a role in firing for most commissions, but not all. But again, this gets back to what's the role of the commission? Is the commission supposed to stop the mayor from doing what the mayor was elected to do? Or is the commission supposed to further the mayor's agenda? Depending on your point of view on that, that determines whether the commissioners should be at will or not, and whether they should have complete control over the department heads. Police discipline is a fun one because it's so involved. And I have never heard anybody actually say that the current way we do police discipline is a good way until we propose to change it. And I voted against that one, frankly, because we were trying to meet a political issue with a technical response. Our response to how that should work, I think, is a very good one. But we were the wrong people in the wrong room. It should be the police commission and the POA and the ACLU and all the people who know much more about this than we do. And I'm assuming that will probably be changed back by the Board of Supervisors. And my concern is that I don't think those groups will ever get together and fix it. But police discipline matters go on for years and years and years. You have untrained police commissioners doing evidentiary hearings. The current process, from my point of view, is not a good one. But again, I'm not sure we're the ones to fix that. Maybe it's somebody else who needs to do that. You've heard some of this before, but again, governance commissions, mayor controlled in most cases, at will removal in most cases. The mayor would appoint most commissioners. The board would have 30 days to veto those if the board wanted to veto those. For things like the police commission, planning commission, and MTA, those would still continue to be split commissions. They would have somewhat reduced powers in terms of the hiring, firing, or department heads. And we did have exceptions. You know, it was at the beginning, we thought, oh, this can all be perfect and everything will fit into boxes. Nothing fits in boxes here. And so as we worked our way through, we realized that there had to be exceptions for all kinds of different things. So there are exceptions. The Civil Service Commission still has a role in hiring the HR director for the city. The Ethics Commission still hires its own director, and so on. Again, advisory commissions, we tend to ask those to be appointed to provide expertise, and no decision-making ability is needed in that. And typically a 3-year sunset. The 3-year sunset is already board policy for new advisory bodies. We picked it up for the older ones that existed, and we just assigned that. It is not to say it ends in 3 years. It's to say every 3 years, someone should take a look and see are these still adding value. And I didn't bring my watch up for the timing. Are you doing timing?
Yeah, you have 8 minutes.
Left?
8 minutes left.
Okay. I don't need all of it. The report is out. Take a look at it. We did try to explain and describe why we made the proposals we made. That report will be the subject of a hearing at the Board of Supervisors next Tuesday. I believe it should be a special hearing at 3 o'clock. There's 2 other things that came out of our report. One is an ordinance, and we did this modeled after the base closure streamlining committees in the federal government, because they realized that you could never just go and get rid of one military base in the United States. Everyone would fight that. So the way it's set up was you get a whole package and you can vote it up or you can vote it down. In this case, we have an entire package of an ordinance. That ordinance has been introduced. It is in the 30-day hold at the Board of Supervisors. I assume there will be a hearing on it in April. The board has an option of just doing nothing. If it does nothing in June, that just goes into effect. The board has an option of vetoing it by 8 votes, or they can amend it with that same 8 vote because it ends up being the equivalent of a veto. Our recommendation to people, we'll see how this goes, is that there's a lot of good things and a lot of good cleanup in this ordinance. And our recommendation is let it go through and then go back to the board the day after it passes and say, we want you to fix these 3 things. We don't think this should have been cut. We think these things could be grouped. We think things could be different. And it gives you a chance to update what you're doing as opposed to just saying, stop it and let things go the same way they are. The proposed charter amendments are done by state law. We don't have the authority to make any change to the process for that. And so they're governed by state law. And so what happens there is that a board member has to introduce it. It has to go through the entire board process. And only if board members agree by majority vote, it goes on the ballot in November. When Supervisor Rafael Mandelman introduced the hearing for next Tuesday, he said he fully expected to amend what came out of our committee even before he brings it up to the board. So I would expect that those of you who are interested in making changes should be talking to members of the Board of Supervisors and suggesting the changes that you would like to make. Again, I think that the task force did what they thought was right, they thought what was best. It does not mean it works for everybody. And I think almost all the things I've heard about problems with, I was the one vote on a 4-to-1 vote. So I would encourage you, where you think things are wrong, to go ahead and make those changes. But I would also encourage you to say, it's not because people were horrible people, or I've heard people say, oh, the mayor pushed it. The mayor paid no attention to it, frankly, except that he had his budget director as one of the members of the task force. So these are people who are bright, but again, they're in most cases staff people. And I think what we all realized was if we thought Prop E was going to pass, we probably would have written it differently and had more advocates on it. But they were mostly staff people, and staff people think if you have a department with staff to do something, why do you necessarily need all these other people volunteering to show up also? I realize that there's a different level of trust between some people in the world and what they expect people to do or not. And so I would encourage you, where you find that we have a problem with what we've done, go change it. I'm sure the board is willing and able to make the changes that people want, but we do want this to end up being something where the city does work better, and it does make sense to get rid of the ones that were dead, You know, what we used in the campaign was we said Prop D was a meat axe approach. The way that I used to phrase it was Prop D was somebody taking a thing of a weed killer and just killing everything, all the flowers in the garden. What we're looking for was a maintenance level, a gardener coming in and making things better, not getting rid of things. And we hope when this is all said and done, that's what we end up with. I know it's not there yet. I hope it is that way before it comes out of the Board of Supervisors.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joy Zan, and I am the Vice President of San Francisco Women's Political Committee. Just to also note, I took the day off in my day job. I am the Acting Director for the San Francisco Youth Commission.
And good afternoon or evening, everybody. My name is Leah Lacroix. I am, many hats. But for this context, I am a former youth commissioner. I served from 2009 to 2012 and was the chair. And I also was a former director of the Youth Commission. After college, I came on board to work at the Youth Commission. So thank you.
A lot of what we are going to present may be summaries of what you already heard. And in front of you right now are the arguments and for and against the proposed changes. You know, the supporters of these changes to the commission and system often say like it's too expensive or it's inefficient as one of the key reasons. Commissions do require administrative support from department staff and management time, even though most of the commissioners are unpaid, as some of you said, or for those who are being paid, it's a really small stipend that is taxed. Some also argue that having commissions adds a layer of bureaucracy between city officials and their responsibility, need to deliver services, allocate resources, and respond to challenges. Because commissioners are not elected, proponents also argue they're less directly accountable to the public. And we mentioned this earlier, there was a 2024 civil grand jury report that noted that commission costs going to the against these proposed changes actually include departmental management and time and administrative support, which are really small. And the commission costs, so commissioners do also have the option to get health insurance, but very, very little commissioners actually take up on that. So the cost is very minimal, which is very extremely small. The report suggests that a high number of these advisory bodies may create like redundancies and unnecessary administrative burdens. So the opponents to these proposed changes point out that there has been no thorough analysis of the cost and impact of eliminating and combining in commissions, particularly where their functions must continue. The budget and legislative analysis is like the board side for like their budget and legislative and analyzing acknowledged that they had insufficient data to estimate these costs. And in many cases, like the respondents also indicated that eliminating commissions could increase expenses. So critics also question what efficiency really means, emphasizing that we need to have a participatory democratic process, one that engages the public in ongoing governance decisions, can lead to better allocation of resources, even if it takes more time. Voting alone is not the only way for the residents of San Francisco to be involved and hold government accountable. These commissions are here in City Hall to make sure that when the residents of San Francisco are not in City Hall, these commissioners and these task force members, advisory bodies, are here to represent them because they are appointed to make sure that happens, helping sure that city services and policies reflect the needs and priorities of the community, expanding access to non-citizen engagement as well. Because if you are a non-citizen, you can also be appointed to these bodies. Next slide, please. Okay, so the potential impacts of the proposed changes, we've already mentioned a little of that, is reordering the balance of power. So right now we have some checks and balances between commissions, the board, the mayor, and these proposed changes will shift a lot of these powers to the mayor, to the executive branch, furthering concentrating power in an already strong mayor system and weakening existing checks and balances that help guard against misconduct and corruption. The Board of Supervisors' role in appointing and confirming commissioners would also be reduced. Moving in commissions from the charter to the administrative code will also make it easier to modify and eliminate them without voter approval. If you don't know what an administrative code is, an administrative code is a set of laws that the Board of Supervisors get to pass and approve by the mayor as well. So these challenges would weaken commission independence. Commissioners could be removed at will rather than only for cause. Split appointments could be replaced by sole mayoral appointments, and governance bodies could lose the board's confirmation process. Independent commissioners provide unbiased input based on their expertise and experience in the community, and reducing that independence risks diminishing the quality and integrity of oversight. The proposals would also reduce opportunities for ongoing public engagement. Commissions serve as a forum for participatory democracy, allowing residents to monitor city departments, provide feedback, and influence policies in real time. If commissions are eliminated or absorbed into city departments, the public's ability to engage meaningfully between elections will be significantly curtailed. The commissions give both commissioners and the public a structured, knowledgeable way to participate in governance, something that cannot be replaced by voting alone.
Okay, next slide. So we're talking about timeline and next steps. So by March 1st of 2026, the city attorney will prepare a draft charter amendment to implement the task force's recommendations and submit it to the Board of Supervisors. Public hearings on the report and the draft charter amendment have been scheduled with the entire body of the Board of Supervisors on March 17th, 2026. Keep that date in mind. The board may modify the proposals or place them on the November 2026 ballot, and any changes to the charter or voter-approved commissions will only take place if voters approve the measure. For commissions established by the municipal code or the administrative code, the task force recommendations can be implemented without voter approval. The city attorney will draft ordinances on these changes, which will take effect within 90 days unless rejected by a 2/3 vote of our Board of Supervisors. The task force may introduce such a recommendation or ordinances at any time throughout its origin through to its disbanding date, which is January 31st, 2027. It's important to note again that the deadline for the mayor and our Board of Supervisors to introduce the charter amendment for the November 2026 ballot is July 26, 2026, with the measure being approved or rejected by voters at the November 3rd, 2026 election.
Next slide, please. So what might you expect on the ballot? So as someone mentioned, I believe, Ed mentioned earlier, there is already a commission reform being drafted by the city attorney to go on the ballot by the board. Additionally, there is a separate ballot measure for charter reform. So that is being proposed currently or being put together by this charter reform working group that Mayor Lurie and President Mandelman have decided to put together, and that is also a possible ballot measure. There is also rumors in the wind, and that is to be determined, is for both commission reform and charter reform to be combined into one charter amendment ballot measure. These are potentials, what you might expect on the ballot. And other possibles is that voter-led initiatives are possible. That is through signature gathering, and that can be put onto the ballot.
All right, now you've heard from all of our lovely presenters. Now we're going to talk about how you can help. And you've done the first step. You're here, listening to us talk about commission systems and charter reform. Okay, there are multiple ways to participate in shaping San Francisco's commission system and to protect civilian oversight and the independence of commissions. Get out your phones, take pictures of this slide because this is important. You can follow the co-hosts on social media, so that includes the League of Women Voters, the Women's Building, San Francisco's Women Political Committee, Roots for Change Agency, and Real Reform SF. These are their handles up here. Follow them on social media, on Instagram, share it in your stories through your friends, and your neighbors, your cousins, your coffee mates, anybody, just let them know. Engagement can take form in many ways, not just on social media. You can attend meetings in person, call your supervisors, submit comments, your public comment through email, send email to your supervisors, and all of this ensures that the voices and perspectives of San Francisco residents are heard throughout the entirety of this decision-making process. You can provide a written public comment to the Board of Supervisors on any of the proposed charter amendments and/or weigh in on whether the board should approve or veto the ordinances recommended by the task force. And this is the email where you do it, board.of.supervisors@sfgov.org. And when you send an email to that address for our Board of Supervisors, it goes to every single member of the board and is included into the public record. In addition to that, the organizers for this event here, we've created an action network where it can, so that's a QR code right here. So if you scan that, it will take you to a pre-drafted letter that you can send to the Board of Supervisors. And after you send it, there's another link on another page after the letter is sent where you can view and download a toolkit that has even more information on how to share this information with your friends, your colleagues, your neighbor at the gym when you're walking on the treadmill. Like, everybody should hear about this. And I said, keep March 17th in mind because that is an important date. You can give public comment at the Board of Supervisors meeting on March 17th, 2026 at 2 p.m. in room 250 in City Hall, when these recommendations will be introduced and heard by the board for the first time at their full supervisors meeting. And it's important to note too that we'll also send a recording of this event out. So as you receive it, please share it. Maybe there's somebody who you know wanted to come, you can send it to them, or if you want to just review some of this information, you can watch it again and listen to our lovely voices. Additionally, the public will have the opportunity to vote in November on any ballot measures affecting the commission system. So we're just encouraging everybody to be an informed voter, know what's on the ballot in November, and help educate others. Host ballot parties, talk about it with your friends, again, share it on social media, write to your Board of Supervisors, and just let your voice be heard. So with that, I will turn it over to Aja so she can take us into our question and answer section. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, my name is Asia Nicole. I was the campaign director for Prop E, and I'm going to bring, I need to stand right here, okay. I'm going to bring up our presenters so that they can answer your questions. We can take questions from the audience. I already see our question queued up. Ed, I'll have you sit somewhere over here. Lovely Allison and Maxine. And then the audience can line up over by Sophia. So you can all come over here, wave your hand, hello, and we will get you all lined up. So there was a question, I think, from Katrina?
Yes.
Who asked, what was the question again?
How were the members of the task force selected? Were any community members included? Was it a diverse group, age, race, culture, language, gender, sexuality, socioeconomic?
You remember them? Okay, I remember too.
So it was actually specified in the charter, in the proposition E, that there would be 5 members. A member appointed by the Board of Supervisors president would be a public member representing organized labor, and that was me, which we cleared with the Labor Council in San Francisco and Supervisor Andelman since he was the incoming president. A mayor's representative at the beginning was a public member. She quit after 2 months, and then it became the mayor's budget check. Other than that, the 3 members were supposed to be city employees. And they were city employees who worked for the city administrator, the city attorney, and the city controller. And so it was stacked to be a staff-led kind of group to a very large degree.
So for you, labor representative. Right, okay. Hi, sir.
What were the demographics?
Demographics?
Yeah, it was 5 women and me, 4 women and me, and I believe they were all white.
Okay.
Before you got started, the civil grand jury also looked at duplicative and inactive, and those are easy to find. The other one that they couldn't really find metrics for, and I'm wondering if you looked at, was less than dependent, and that was how many commission members are fundraisers for the mayor. And I don't know, I guess my question is, did you guys wrestle with that one? The civil grand jury didn't really find an easy way to look at it, whereas duplicative and inactive are just easy to look at the minutes.
We did not look at the current makeup of any commissions. We looked at the commission structure, the commission's responsibility, but we did not look at the individuals who are currently on those commissions.
And I'm assuming not looking at process to make sure that that kind of corrupt dependency didn't exist.
We did not, the only thing that we did was to say that the mayor could appoint and the board of supervisors could stop the appointment within 30 days if they thought that it was a problem.
Thank you.
Okay, next question.
Hello, my name is Lucia and I'm currently serving in the Immigrant Rights Commission. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the discussion and rationale around changing term limits and the years of the years of the term and term limits.
Okay, looks like another one for you.
So we looked at whether there should be term limits at all for commissioners, and the majority decided that there should be some term limit to have some kind of turnover. There's a lot of people in San Francisco who'd like to serve government, it's volunteers, and should one person stay forever? So we ended up suggesting in our templates that there would be a 12-year term limit, meaning if you had a 4-year term, you could only do 3 of those. Some commissions have a 2-year term, you could do 6 of those. We made exceptions for certain ones where there was a really high level of expertise. And the concern that was expressed to us by the people who came and talked to us was that there's a very small pool of people in San Francisco who could meet that requirement. And so we thought we should give them longer terms, which brings up another thing I did not mention. Some of the commissions have very explicit requirements for each seat. We also changed that in almost every case to be much more desirable and much more body-wide and not just individuals. What we found over the years is that, for example, the Building Inspection Commission has very specific requirements for who can be on it. And finding somebody who can be on it, who meets all the qualifications, who lives in San Francisco and doesn't do any business. So you have to find an engineer who won't do business in San Francisco but lives here to be able to find somebody. So we've had real problems finding folks. So we made those more generic kind of recommendations for the whole body and desirable, not required.
Is it okay to ask a follow-up?
Is there time for follow-up?
Yeah. I'm wondering for implementation in terms, how would that affect the current commissioners? Let's say I'm on my 2nd term. Currently we are, no terms, and then the terms are 2 years. But the recommendation is to turn into 3 years with a limit of 4. So in application, how would that affect the current commissioners?
So anybody currently on a commission for less than half of a term would start their 12 years at the next appointment. Anybody who's in a current commission seat that have served more than half of their term would be counted as the first term of their 3-term limit.
Thank you.
Perfect. Anyone online? No? Okay. Not so chatty. Ready?
Yeah, my name is Caroline. My question is, it sounded like the reason you were recommending to get rid of some of these commissions was if it was duplicative of departments in the city. But I see that the status on women department is now being combined with the human rights department or something, and so it seems like it's not duplicative, and that some should keep the women's commission.
Right.
The recommendation is for the Commission on Status of Women and the Human Rights Commission to both be moved into the administrative code, or something like what you say is possible, but that's not one of our recommendations. We did not recommend combining or merging them. The risk is when you put something in the administrative code, something could happen to it. And just to be clear, I mean, it's all about power, right? If you have power, you want the flexibility to use the power. If you have been traditionally discriminated against, you want the protection of the charter so people can't use that power to have flexibility. And that's the difference of opinion.
Hi, thank you. Michael Canning, I'm the Policy and Legislative Affairs Manager for the San Francisco Ethics Commission. Really appreciate you all holding this event. I just wanted to flag a recommendation that was part of the Streamlining Task Force recommendations that hasn't been spoken about, which is the unique ability of the Ethics Commission to place ballot measures before voters. This is a fairly unique authority the Ethics Commission has that was granted by the voters in 1993 when they created the commission. It's something the commission uses very sparingly. It's used it 5 times over the last 30 years of its existence, and uses that authority when legislation can't be moved to the Board of Supervisors and instead want to reach directly to the voters. It's why the city has a public financing program that would not have been approved by the Board of Supervisors, so the Ethics Commission put that on the ballot. And we think it's a really important tool for the independence of the commission to maintain strong rules related to campaign finance, lobbyists, and government ethics. Unfortunately, the Streamlining Task Force recommendations kind of take what's a very simple process and simple authority and have created a very complicated process that essentially lets the board.
Try to wrap it up.
Yes, and really hope that folks will look into that issue and really think it's important to maintain that authority. And we do appreciate that Chair Harrington working with the commission on that. Just make the ultimate recommendation this morning for folks who look at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is John Lacantalco. This is very undemocratic. You're asking us to ask you questions. We have problems with right to make. This is fascism. How can you get a mayor and he's going to say, we're going to get rid of the commission that have been here since 1899? You know? So, what do you mean by administrative? You're saying that all these ideas that you have will be handled by the administrative. It was administrative, the Board of Supervisors, the mayor. What's on that? What do you mean? That's what I'm my question. What do you mean by administrative?
When I've used the term administrator, it's been the city administrator, which is a title of a particular person in City Hall. That's when I've used the term administrator.
So they act one person?
There's a city administrator position. It's appointed by the mayor, approved by the Board of Supervisors for a 5-year term. One of the people on the task force was appointed by the city administrator.
Okay, that question that I have is, that reduces opportunities for ongoing public engagement. Does that mean because we wouldn't be able to go to these commission meetings like we've been going to now? Like I'm representing the shelters. I know that the housing oversight committee will be eliminated, that people could be thrown out in the streets, transgender women and murder, not going hurting, and I've seen that happen at shelters. So what's going to happen to the homeless programs? Are we letting these people down in the streets? You know why there's half the tents? Because they died.
I'm not sure that's a comment more than a question.
Okay, I was advised to speak loud, okay? So, is it okay if I have a perspective to present as opposed to 3 questions? Is that okay? Yeah. Okay, great, thank you very much. So, on Prop E, I really agree that they threw everything in it, and I'm glad the committee did some beginning of a selection. So, but we can't go through all of that tonight. So I want to just say that when I began looking at this, oh, my name's Roma God. All right, so I began looking at this because I have been on commissions, I have been on played administrative roles, I have been an accident, an advocate, the gray hair, a little after Adam and Eve. And so the point that my observation is that the port or the airport or all of those enterprises that bring money into the city don't get scrutinized like this, okay? So where is the accountability on that level? It seems to me that all those administrative committees, Commission on the Status of Women, etc., are all human rights responsibilities. And I think we have to think about that, because that's what's going to go down the tubes. So, and I'm not blaming the members of the committee. I'm saying we live in the United States of America. Let's pay attention to where we're going with human rights. And I'm not criticizing you. I'm saying we have to look at this piece of work from that perspective. So that's one. And, I can assure you, when I was on the Health Commission, if we had not had a Health Commission, because before I was on the Health Commission, there was no commission. And when the challenge came, are we going to close San Francisco General or not? Laguna Honda or not? It was a mess. Because when you went to the Board of Supervisors or you went to a mayor, it was all over the map. And whatever you want to say about a commission, if we hadn't had that commission, San Francisco General may not, it's not how it happened, because we fought hard for the commission. And we chartered it. It has to be at that level. So,
Roma, just to be clear, Prop T would have gotten rid of the Health Commission.
Exactly.
We did not.
I agree with that.
The Health Commission is there, the Library Commission is there, a number of things that Prop T
exactly
would have
right.
killed.
Why are they there? They're chartered.
And we left them there.
Exactly.
Okay.
If you had had that fight, this room would be in the rafters. Okay? And I'm just saying, let's pay attention to what it is. And I know we have to struggle, okay, and, Ed, my buddy, I'm not criticizing, but I am making the observation that when you say the mayor didn't pay attention, but you say his budget director is there, you know what, really, let's make that observation together. I really appreciate this. What would we have done during COVID and HIV without the Health Commission? When the feds tried to close Laguna Honda for the second time, what would we have done without a Health Commission? I am telling you, that's the level we need to operate. We need the Commission on the Status of Women. We need the Human Rights Commission and others, but, I don't want to take all night. So that's my point. Thank you very much for your work.
I will say something just before we get back into questions, is that I have been going around and talking to the supervisors to advocate for certain bodies to be put back into the charter, and they are not hearing a lot about HRC. And I have been now trying to meet with a lot of their offices to advocate for that one. So please, 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 they are telling me to whoever is concerned Roma to show up and talk to them. So it's not just the campaign that's advocating for HRC to go back in, please.
I don't think we heard from maybe 600 people came to our meetings, and another 1,000 or so sent us letters. I'm not sure we got one about HRC. I was very stunned by that.
That is true, because I'm going through those letters to send them to the supervisors, and there is none. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Rosie Boltman. I have two quick questions. The first is about bureaucracy. It's a little bit of an abstract term. So I'm wondering if you can take us back to the beginnings of these two bills that were introduced. Why were they introduced? What were the concrete problems with bureaucracy and budget and these other issues? And what are people hoping that Prop E solves? And if I could get like concrete examples, that would be great.
Perfect. There you go, as my spokesperson for the campaign.
So Proposition D was put on by Michael Morris, who was a billionaire in San Francisco, and Together SF, which is a relatively conservative group for San Francisco. And what they said was that they thought commissions got in the way of efficient government. And so they said, they thought we had 130, and they said that we should cut them and have 65 total limit, and it was going to just be that way, which is why a number of us got involved in the campaign. We put Prop E on to kill Prop D, frankly. We were quite surprised when Prop E won. But Prop E said that instead of doing that hatchet approach, we should take a look at all the commissions, because with all the discussion with the grand jury that was mentioned earlier and with the Proposition D campaign, there were legitimate concerns by people that there were commissions that just didn't even exist anymore, but they were still on the books. There were commissions that they thought were duplicative, and they wanted someone to take a look at it, and that's when we were created to take a look at those commissions. I can't tell you why Michael Moritz thought this was the critical thing to do in San Francisco when he raised $9 million to put it on the ballot and run the campaign. We had $80,000 and we beat him.
Just to follow up to that, thank you for that answer. I'm wondering if there are any findings in the report that you worked on that can specifically point to places where dead commissions or things like that were getting in the way of efficient government.
There are a number of, if you look at the report, I've had a chance, and so we tried to make a list in the back of that report of every single decision that was made in terms of what was happening with the commission. And in some cases, people just hadn't met for years. Was that in the way or not? It's just clutter, not a big deal. There are other ones where, and this is a difference of opinion, totally get this, but for example, people in the homeless community, there's a shelter monitoring committee, there's a shelter grievance committee, as two of the groups that are, there's a multiple number of groups with homeless. We have a homeless department now. There were people on our task force thought that now you have a department and you had staff, isn't that their job to monitor as opposed to having volunteers have to do it? And that there's an oversight commission for the Department of Homelessness, and isn't that their job too? And so if that's all their job, why do we also have these groups? The Shelter Monitoring Committee met yesterday for the first time in a year. The world didn't stop and they weren't meeting for a year. So is that the right way to do it? Should we combine? Should we rearrange? What should we do with those groups? But there were a number of things like that where we looked at them and said, they're not meeting, or they seem duplicative of what's happening today. Maybe the bad decision, but that was the point.
Okay, thank you so much.
Keep you with the mic. Is there someone online? Okay, before I get to you, I'm going to take the person online. Okay.
Yeah. The question's from N. Morrill. What do you think of the fact that Supervisor Sherrill just proposed the creation of a fire code technical advisory council that the board may otherwise remove and restrict many other commissions?
Well, again, Prop D would have limited it to 65 for all time. Prop E says if you want to have a new commission tomorrow, knock yourself out. On an advisory commission, knock yourself out. I do think that we should be careful as we do those. And the board policy is if someone does introduce a new advisory group, that they should have an automatic 3-year sunset to reevaluate in 3 years to see if they're still useful. We went through and found some committees that have been appointed, that have been created by the board, and no one was ever appointed to them at all. So is this one that's needed? I have no idea, but if the board believes it's needed and the people want something, this allows it to continue to happen.
Go ahead. Hi, I'm Karen questioning, and I was active in the Justice for Mario Woods Coalition.
And the police commission is how we got 272 recommendations from the U.S. Department of Justice implemented. It's how we got the use of force policy. And the same folks who are trying to strip all these other commissions are the ones who finance the stripping of the power of the police commission. They're the same ones who are financing the cameras that are everywhere. When you go to City Hall and you're standing on the steps, look on top of the public library and the Asian Art Museum. There are enormous cameras aimed at City Hall. And we're here in the mission. This is like the birthplace of like participatory democracy in San Francisco, the Women's Building, other social halls where people will come together. And that's how we got these commissions, so that people would be protected. I moved here in 2012, and I feel so safe in San Francisco. I'm not subjected to sexual harassment. I walk around, I feel like really safe because women, because LGBTQ people, because immigrants, because people have power in this city that they had to fight for. It wasn't given to them. And I think it's really, we need to maintain that, not let it go. We need to build on that. And these handful of billionaires cannot come here and just take over everything. If they want to live here, that's fine. But they're one person just like me. Their vote doesn't matter more than mine.
Exactly. I love your answers. That was perfect.
Hello, my name is Tess, and I went to two of the task force meetings, and I found it very confusing. It looked like I had to have done a reading of 100 pages for each meeting, and so I was not able to speak at the meeting because there was so much. Furthermore, there was a pattern for each task force or commission was fitted into, and that came from SPUR. And I think that a lot of the democracy started with using this template. I think that we should not follow the current proposals. I think we should look at SPUR's role in this. SPUR does a lot of good analysis, but I don't think increasing democracy is one of them. I would like this disclosure of people working with SPUR in the past or in the present. And I wonder too about the department staffing of this. I don't recall whether that was in the original E or not, but having department people who are working for the city doing this decision-making feels to me off. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think if we thought property had any chance of passing, we wouldn't have written it with department people in it. But that's the way it was written, and so that's because I pointed to it. The templates were not from SPUR. Full disclosure, I am on the board of SPUR. I have things that they do. I have some things we disagree with that they do, but the templates were brought and put together by our own committee. It was not a SPUR kind of thing. The property did say that the city administrator should staff it, and that's who staffed the committee.
And it was her staff who did the templates, right? Right.
It was her staff working on this.
My name is Catherine Kenley Johnson. I'm a member of the San Francisco Women's Political Committee and San Francisco's for an Independent Women's Commission. I wanted to say I don't buy into the idea of efficiency as the underlying motivation of the task force. I want to support Roma Guy's remark about the importance of human rights. I want to take a look at the commissions that have been transferred from the charter into the advisory committee, and the meaning of that is stripping away the public voice. Those commissions, the Women's Commission, the Children, Youth, the Disability, Aging, they represent people who need a voice. And in addition, human rights isn't enough. One size doesn't fit all. I want to remind people of the context in which we're operating.
In January and February of 2025, Trump issued 2 executive orders. One of them read, and I can't remember the exact title, but the paraphrasing it is, eliminate gender ideology extremism and enforce one sex, meaning 2 sexes, a male and female. Now, that eliminates a lot that is of importance to the Commission on the Status of Women and other groups that are represented. And the second executive order was, forget this thing about DEI preferences and deal with merit-based opportunity. Now, we haven't been struggling to have the voices of the disenfranchised have their rights and opportunities. And the reputation of San Francisco is at stake. And that's what I want people to think of.
I love this. I hope everyone joins me next Tuesday at the board. Bring this energy. Hi, Carol. Sorry. Are you? Oh, no.
Sorry, this is. Thank you. My name is Carol Vito. I have over 20 years of experience serving on 2 commissions. One is the Commission on Status of Women, the other was to the San Francisco Airport. So it's a dichotomy of experience. I represented women, the smallest department in commission at the time, and then the airport, which is like the 2nd or 3rd largest enterprise department in this city. So my experience in both has taught me a lot. I want to make some corrections on some observations or answers that some people on this panel have said. Prop E, yes, was a blessing because Prop E went down, but Prop E in this task force is like Prop D 2.0. Prop D eliminated about half of the chartered commissions. Prop E is doing almost the same thing. I think there's 25 and 22 commissions that are remaining in the charter. I think for those of you who may not know the difference, when you're a chartered commission, you have governance, budget oversight, policy development, and also over contracts. All of that was eliminated for the Commission on Status of Women, and for that matter, all the other human needs commission that you saw on the list up on PowerPoint. So to the point of other speakers like Roma Guy and Catherine Johnson, there is a disproportionate number of commissions being really disempowered and really taking away the democratic voice, not just women, but everybody, immigrants, the disabled, the aged, you name it. And I just also want to make a point. I know that this task force had the intention of it being a public process, but May of last year, I attended about a half a dozen very important decision-making meetings that Ed Harrington chaired. Back in May, before the budget and the mayor's decision to merge the department under human rights, your document already had us under the Human Rights Department. I want to remind you of that. I have it in writing.
I think you turned it off. I saw the red button. Is it dead? Okay. Do I need to run?
So, Mr. Harrington, I have 2 questions. I'm Jason Wechter. I am a former member of and the inaugural president of the Sheriff's Department Oversight Board. So the first question is the rationale.
Oh, no. Here I come.
So my first question is about the rationale for the suggested changes that I see, particularly giving the mayor 4 appointees and the board of supervisors 3 rather than the other way around, and removing the subpoena power and budget authority from the oversight board. And the second question is, this board is kind of unique in that it oversees a department that's headed by someone who is elected, not appointed. And the only authority the mayor has over it is drafting a budget that the board of supervisors cannot, will or will not approve for the sheriff's department. Did you look at comparable commissions in California, particularly in Los Angeles, or San Diego to look at the accepted best practices for those commissions rather than just looking at commissions generally.
Yeah. Do you want to come closer, Jason? Since you have a second part to your question?
No, I asked the second part.
Oh, okay, perfect.
So this is one that I do not feel like I'm an expert at all in. There was a sense that it was that group had a hard time getting together and getting organized. That there was, I believe, subpoena power with the Inspector General. And did you need that for the Inspector General and for the group also? So we left it with the Inspector General, not with both groups. My recollection is that our staff did look at other agencies. I do not know which ones.
And we're changing the appointing authority.
Changing the appointing authority was really, that's that template discussion where when there are split appointments in the city, the standard is for the mayor to have more than the board. This was the only anomaly like that. It was because the board introduced it in the first place. So it was 4 board, 3 mayor. Every other split committee is 4 mayor, 3 board, or that, and we changed it to that. It was not a particular point for them.
Hi. My name is Rochelle Axel. I'm with Arts for Vendor Bay Area. I worked for the Arts Commission for 21 years. You probably recognize me from a few of the task force meetings. I have a couple of questions. First, I do want to acknowledge, I understand that you voted against your colleagues on the task force when it came to the Arts Commission. The Arts Commission was a weird one. It wasn't listed on the commissions that were moving to the charter because you guys kind of split the baby on that one, where the mission of the Arts Commission stays in the charter, but everything that the commission does moves to the admin code. So essentially, we're not really clear where the rubber meets the road on that, and it sounds like essentially it's all moving to being recommended to advisory, which we are certainly not in favor of, and I can use far more time than I'm given to talk about that, but I won't. I have some sort of wonky questions about how to proceed. First of all, because it appears that the Arts Commission is kind of held harmless, even though it isn't, is there a different strategy that should be used in terms of talking to the Board of Supervisors about the charter authorities that we want to stay in the charter? We also have very specific recommendations of reducing the size of the commission, how the 5 committees could be shifted to 4. Like, we have really specific ones. So we're certainly going to workshop it around to all the supervisors. Do you advise that we have one supervisor champion this to bring it to the others, or do we spread it out equally? That's sort of one question. And then this is even wonkier. So I understand that yesterday the mayor and President Mandelman introduced 3 charter measures to the board to be submitted for signature gathering. One is the charter amendment, modernizing city contracting, which is empowering the city administrator. The second one is the charter amendment, changing the ballot process. And the third one is the charter amendment, strengthening the executive branch accountability. That's the hiring and firing thing. So that's separate from what's going to be discussed that the steering committee put forward on March 17th. So how do we, it's really confusing, and I would love advice.
It's going to get confusing. Come November, it's going to get confusing. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to get worse. There are things that are in the task force report that are different from what the mayor is suggesting. And so what I have suggested to members of the board of supervisors is that they work this out and they decide if he's going to do the contentious things like hiring and firing and at-will commissioners, maybe let him do that and just take that out of what we proposed and have ours be a much more vanilla version kind of things, if that's possible. If we end up putting back in the Commission on Status, Women and Youth and Environment and those things back in, and they're still in the charter, we can end up with things that are fairly minor cleanup kind of things in the charter. That's one of the options. There have been some members of the board who say we should put it all everywhere. I think that would make the public crazy when they try to vote if it's duplicative and or competing in different places. I met with the mayor a couple of weeks ago and he didn't tell me what he was going to do, but I said it would be great if we didn't bump into each other at least and make them go crazy. When your strategy of talking with the board, I would do both. I would find someone who's a champion. Because if somebody can go to Rafael Mann or somebody else and say, my priority is the Art Commission, and I want that fixed, and that's my vote, that's very important. But at the same time, offering to go to the other ones and tell them why you think that's a problem, I think is also important. There's this discussion of flexibility. There was very little discussion, frankly, of efficiency in our group. It was much more about flexibility. And the mayors have always wanted more flexibility, and people that are advocates always want protection. That's just, those are the two sides of the world. And the Art Commission was an attempt to see if we could split that baby in a different way, maybe wrong. But what we did was, we said the arts are important, we want to keep them in the charter. This was my idea of trying to not have my group kick the Art Commission out too. So it was like, the arts are important, leave them in the charter, but the flexibility comes from what you do, what the Arts Commission does. And maybe you could put that in the administrative code, and maybe that could be flexible. But the idea that the Art Commission and the other commissions are important topics for the city, we want to make sure we protect them. And so that's why that split was done there. I'm not sure it was the right split. And talk to the board. I do think that there's a lot of people who would like to make some of the things the Art Commission does more advisory than you would probably like. And so you'll see that coming on too.
Hi, my name is Zoe Hillman, and I'm looking at one of the slides, the topics. It says, the topics will be the focus of the Board of Supervisors, and under that is the Environment Commission. And my concern is that the Environment Commission, it represents the people, really failed people in baby. And I want to know what focus you have. What does that mean? Like, will have less authority than it has now in giving recommendations? There was another time where San Francisco sued right up to the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, the Clean Water Act, against it, for the discharge of the wastewater treatment facility out to the ocean. Like what was the role of the Environmental Commission then? I thought it looked pretty weak to me. And now you're going to focus on it. And
so the recommendation of the task force was to make the Charter Commission, making the Environment Commission not a charter commission, but an advisory commission in the administrative code.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Right now, the Environment Commission is a permanent governance commission in charge of a department in the charter. The recommendation of the group was to take that and make it an advisory commission in the administrative code, which would mean future flexibility possibilities. This is one where also it weakens it, yes.
And it's weak to begin with.
If you think it's too weak to begin with, maybe you should go to the board and say, don't just leave it in the charter, but make it stronger and make it better.
Right.
That's one of the
These
choices.
are very technical issues that you do need that expertise. And I don't know who's on the commission.
This is one of those where we really did, one person showed up when we were talking about the Environment Commission. I called the League of Environmental Voters and said, you need to get someone in here because no one's talking about this. We started getting letters months after we made a decision about the Environmental Commission.
Okay, I'll be there. Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Bruce Wolf. I'm a member of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. And thank you for not turning it into an advisory committee. Okay, that would have been very bad, very awful for the city. It would lose a great service. You mentioned before about subpoena power for the Inspector General and the other commission, but you decided to do one and not the other. My question is what purview did the commission, the task force have in working at that level of language or that level of administrating the actual bodies?
Proposition E said that we should look at the duties and responsibilities of commissions and recommend changes if we thought there should be changes.
Okay.
It was a fairly broad mandate.
Okay. My last question is, your task force delivered your findings and proposals to the Board of Supervisors, what, February 27th?
Whatever that Friday was, the end of February.
Okay, great. So I'm a little concerned about the time frame here because the municipal code for elections states that there has to be a 30-day rule.
Yes.
Okay, that's not happening.
Yes, the ordinance is on the 30-day hold right now, and then the 90 days start, but the ordinance is a 30-day hold. The charter, nothing has been introduced at the board at all for the charter. And so until a member of the board introduces something, then it goes through the regular process, whatever those delays are in the charter.
Okay, so the ordinance will not be heard for 30 days?
It's on a 30-day hold at the board. The board could have a hearing, but I doubt anybody's going to do anything in terms of making any changes until at least April.
Okay, because according to the rule, if they're not supposed to even have a hearing until there's a 30-day waiting period.
Proposition E required a hearing within 30 days of our report, and our report was out February 28th, 27th. So the hearing officially is on our report and a possible charter. It is not on the ordinance because the ordinance isn't officially in front of the board yet. But if you come, you can talk about all those things anyway, because it's all on the report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your service on that.
Sure.
Last person. I really have more of a comment and less of a question. I think my name is Jackie Sari. I'm a San Francisco voter as well, but you know, I do want to kind of just say that I appreciate that there are public education forums like this, right? Especially for San Francisco voters, because in reality, I believe that even sometimes like unionized members in San Francisco, like city workers in San Francisco, don't even know what's going on, right? And it's really concerning, especially because just looking at what's going to happen to city workers, the fact that the mayor's already proposing 500 layoffs, right? And that you betcha that a lot of those layoffs are probably going to happen to like the HRC or Arts Commission, commissions that, departments that the mayor probably will say, well, oh, well, it's not that important. I don't know. But I guess my question really is when is the next one? When is the next public, forums? Because it's really important, right?
Okay, I guess I'll take that one. It will be pretty soon, depending on what's happening more in the summertime with the rest of the charter reform. I plan on still being here and educating you, don't you worry. I will not let you down. And with that, the next one, most likely, my goal was to have some more about the charter reform working group, but having it more around summertime when we're starting to see that come down the pipeline. So I'm here. I will be along the ride with you and screaming on the steps of City Hall with you. Don't you worry. Okay, and then with that, is there one more question online? Okay.
Somebody was like, can I ask a question?
Okay.
I haven't gotten the question, so if I haven't gotten it, it's
okay. Perfect. Okay. So with that, we are done. Thank you all.
Really well. Headshot.
You notice we were sitting over here like this, and we were like.
It's like it was a preview of what's to come on Tuesday.
Oh yeah.
Right?
You know,
People it's great to hear. I know. I just hope they show up on Tuesday.
Hi, thank you so much for
Thank
you for asking questions and everything as well.
Yeah. There's so much.
Tuesday, Board of Supervisors, be there with me. There is a rally at noon on the steps to get a forum. I will email you all. Thank you.
Are you going to come on the 17th?
Yes.
Okay.
I will be there.